Welcome to the Jericho Force podcast, where we learn how to integrate faith into the work that we do. Don't conform to the world's way of doing business. Transform by doing business God's way. Here's our host, my husband, author, speaker, teacher, encourager, and stewardship coach, Jason Davis.
What is going on, everybody? What is going on? Welcome to the Jericho Force podcast, where we teach people and listen to other powerful voices on how we integrate faith into the work that we do. We talk about how we actively live out our faith in the marketplace. My name is Jason Davis, aka Mr. Fortify, and I am excited for another episode of the Jericho Force podcast. And folks, I'm going to tell you what, we've got another exciting show with our guest. Before I bring her on, though, let me introduce her to you. Jacinta Martin is a woman with many hats and talents. She is the author of a novel, The Fragmented Soul, From Faith to Faith, a 45-day devotional, a real estate agent in the state of Georgia, the operations manager for a growing publishing company, and all while being a mom of 2 children. With a bachelor's degree in business management and a certification in hospitality, Jacinta has acquired valuable knowledge on how to serve with excellence in all areas of her life. Also, a believer in second chances, Jacinta shares her revelations on how she had to heal and rebuild her life from the result of loss, pain, and trauma by using the fruits of God's Spirit through her blog, Fruitful JEMS. With her eclectic set of skills, Jacinta desires to create ways for people to overcome their struggles so they can become all of who God called them to be. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Jericho Force podcast, Miss Jacinta Martin.
Hello and welcome. Thank you for that introduction, Jason. I'm about to say you made me sound wonderful.
Absolutely. Well, when you're doing all kinds of swag in your bio, I mean, it was just easy.
Well, thank you. Listen, it's only by the grace of God that I'm able to do all that I'm called to do, right? It's one of those things where I'm super grateful for that.
That is so awesome. Jacinta, I've been looking forward to our time together. Folks, trust me, there might have been a lot in her bio. We're going to get into as much of it as we can. You know, Jacinta, as we get started, speaking of your background, we know that where people are presently in their life, personally and professionally, we know that a lot goes into that. So when you look at you've written a novel, you're a real estate agent, you're operations manager at a publishing company, and then you have a blog. So talk to us, because there's a lot of different pathways there. What brought you into each aspect of that? Take us on the journey of how the Lord is having you flourish with your talents. And Jacinta, before you go, as I was reading your bio and even in our conversations that we've had over the past year and a half, I'm reminded of the parable of the talents. And just as I see them listed, so just keeping that in mind, the parable of the talents, talk to us how you manage them well, Jacinta.
So that is a wonderful question. It really and truthfully, it's not me. In all honesty, it's learning to manage them through God. Now, I know what Jason read to everyone sounds like a lot, but let me explain. Because even my family goes, when do you have time to sleep? When do you have time to eat, let alone be a mom of your 2 children? But each of those avenues, just as Jason said, or each of those talents have actually been building blocks. What God started me as was a writer. And the writing started in my blog. It started actually with my daughter, who was 4 years old at the time. She came to me and asked me such a profound question. She said, "Mommy, how can I know God is real at 4 years old?" Well, I wanted to give her the intellectual conversation of, well, this is how you know, and here's some Bible verses to support that. And God was like, she's not going to understand that. She's 4.
Right.
So he said, we were outside blowing bubbles, and he said, tell her I'm in the wind. Even though she can't see me, just like the wind, she can feel me as I pass by. Just as the wind, I will talk to her, and you could see it rustling through the trees. He gave me this analogy, this beautiful illustration to give to my 4-year-old, and that's what sparked the idea of, if this worked for a 4-year-old, if she understands that God is real because she believes the wind to be real, but she cannot yet see it, then this analogy would help adults who are struggling to understand God in their life. So that catalyst got me started writing blog after blog after blog, because at that journey, I was going from faith to faith. Then God built upon those building blocks. He's like, okay, now I need you to write a devotional. Wait, what? You need me to do what, God? After that, the devotional literally was birthed from the blogs. He's like, you already have material. Go ahead and write that. So that led to my blog, to about 2 to 3 years in, getting its name changed. Just as he named Abram from Abraham, as Sarai to Sarah, he did the same for my blog, and my blog became Fruitful Gems. He said, I need you to teach my people 9 ways to heal and rebuild their identity. Mm-hmm. And I was like, how do I do that? He said, through the fruits of my spirit. Teach them my love, my joy, my peace, my patience, my kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control, because that's what's needed. When the earth around us starts to shake and rumble, like, who was waiting on this pandemic, right? Who was just like, I'm prepared for this? We have to pull on something. And the way to keep our identity unshakable in the midst of those storms is through rebuilding our identity, keeping our identity grounded and rooted in God.
Jacinta, folks, that's just a little bit. You see how she got started and then she kind of pulled back a little bit. She was like, oh man, I'm on a podcast, I'm not at church. But we are having a little bit of church. So Jacinta, that is so huge. The fruit of the Spirit out of Galatians chapter 5, just hearing how he called you into that, and then even just through showing your daughter how, hey, Jacinta, she's 4. Let's keep this simple. But folks, Jacinta's a testament of how these simple things and the small things, and even in our messaging and the way we communicate, God uses that. And I love that, Jacinta. Man, thank you for sharing that.
Oh, you're welcome.
So, Jacinta, we've got the writing background. You have that moment with your daughter. You've got the blog. And then we have this pivot into real estate. So talk to us about that and the role that God has you playing in the marketplace and impacting people through that part of the economy.
So that was a surprise to me, that literally came out of nowhere. I was talking with my cousin who was like, you should go to school. And I talked to my husband at the time who was like, you should go back to school. Have you thought about going back to school? Now, this was after my private conversation with God. God was like, he gave me dreams about, you should go back to school and do real estate. But you know how we do God very often. When he presents a thing, especially when it seems kind of wild. And what I mean by wild, meaning it doesn't fit in our timeline, right? It doesn't fit with what our circumstances present. And I'll give you a prime example. I was a stay-at-home mom at the time of my daughter. I had not yet had my son. Actually, I was pregnant with my son. And was just like, God, when do I have time? Here I am pregnant. I have my daughter. When am I supposed to go to school? He said, I didn't ask you all that. I didn't ask you to figure that all out. I just asked you to trust me. Oh, okay. Well, so I did. I remember I trusted him. I said, I started this way. You know how we got to test God just a little to prove that he is who he says he is. And I'm not talking in a bad way so that he gets angry with me. I'm talking in the sense of, I said, God, I'm from California. I now live in Georgia. There's over 50 states. I'm not about to choose a school because, God, that could be brick and mortar schools. There could be online schools. Here's where you're going to come in. I said, God, you choose the school you want. If that's what you really want me to do, you choose the school. Well, God answered. Literally 3 days later, in my mailbox, I got a mailer to Kennesaw State University. Mm. And God said, this one. I was like, oh, so you were serious? Yes, I was very serious, is what he told me. And I will never forget the day that I went and enrolled up there. When I tell you opposition happened, God was so good, though, to remind me that real estate is where he wanted me to be. Because when I went up there to enroll, he even provided me a discount at the time. Little did I know that they were providing discounts when you enrolled that evening. So when I tell you as much, and the fire alarm went off too. I almost left because the fire alarm went off. When I tell you things happen when God calls you to a thing. So don't think for 1 second in your mind that just because you were called to a thing, just because God wants you in an area, that because of the opposition, that it's not for you. That was the biggest lesson that I learned that night. But the reason why he wanted me into real estate, I bought my house at 25 years old, all because I asked God for a house. I wanted to raise my daughter in a home. I didn't want to raise her in an apartment. So for him, it's helping. My mandate, my call is to help new homeowners. It's also to help people looking for commercial real estate for their businesses. He has such a heart for the entrepreneur in this season, especially for those who are looking to grow their business and create additional streams and revenue as well with their spaces.
My God, Jacinta, I love that story. It's funny how when we ask God questions, and folks, I hope you're not missing, Jacinta, this is what our Father is all about, having a personal relationship. And so if that sounds casual, it's because we're sons and daughters. So Jacinta, I love just the father-daughter conversational piece of just, God, I know you asked me to do this, but hey, you're going to have to pick the school. And lo and behold, Kennesaw State. And folks, Jacinta and I both, we're here in the state of Georgia, so shout out to the Owls of Kennesaw State. That's just so funny, Jacinta, how that showed up in the mail. He just does things like that, doesn't he?
He does. But you know what? I love it. Those are our reminders, right? Mm-hmm. If for any reason that we doubt what God is doing with us, whether it be professionally or personally, he cares about the little things. That to most people would have been so little. He cared about that.
He sure did. So Jacinta, we've got the moment you had with your daughter. Then you start the blog, and honestly, really a kind of a rebrand of sorts with the blog, and how God was using you to talk about healing with the fruits of the Spirit. Then you get called into real estate. God moves in that. And then it's funny how we round out the conversation here, Jacinta. Then there's this publishing company that you and I know very, very well. And folks, shout out to Beyond the Book Media. They're also a publisher of my book, Fortify. But Jacinta, that's actually, folks, where I first met Jacinta just in interacting with her and the customer service she provided with Beyond the Book Media. But Jacinta, give us, kind of peel back the curtain a little bit. How did you even get involved with Beyond the Book Media and really just partnering with the founder, Chanel E. Martin, who, by the way, folks, she's been on the Jericho Force podcast. She was on episode 1. So just talk to us about that partnership and even just what you do at Beyond the Book Media.
So that's a wonderful question. Yeah, I got started with Beyond the Book Media, and I told this because we recently celebrated 3 years in business over at Beyond the Book Media. And yes, shout out to Chanel E. Martin as well, because it started with serving. She came to me and asked me to armor bear for her. Basically, go around, help her out while she had just released 31 Prayers for Spiritual Wealth. And
great book.
Wonderful book. Every entrepreneur under the sound of my voice, if you don't have this book, you should have this book, because it is so transformative. It is so life-giving. It will make you want to push harder for the things that God has called you to do. And I walked around with her just at different events. We went to churches. We went to family gatherings to promote this book, like literally boots on the ground type marketing for this. And it was amazing just to watch her talk about it, to share the prayers, and just watch God speak to her over each and every person that wanted to break generational curses, who wanted to receive their generational blessings, not only in their personal life, but also for their businesses as well. So when it became Beyond the Book Media and time for her to transition from promoting the book to moving into the publishing arena, she was like, well, God called me to call you. And I said, wait, what? She mentioned, she was like, yeah, God chose you. And what's so funny was I turned her down. I didn't want no part, because I had traveled with her. I knew how anointed she was. I knew if I said yes, God was not playing any games with me, and I don't know if I was done playing games. So for me, it was this is about to get really real if I joined up with her. So what's funny was Jason, I had this job, and I was like, no, I got this little job over here. It is okay. I do not want to join up right now. You know, this job is doing well. She's like, so of course she asked me, so how, is the job treating you good? This, that, and the third. She was trying to gather more information. But eventually she said, okay, not a problem. We hung up that day, and literally same as the mailer, 3 days later, my job said, you know what? We're going to change out your role. We're going to let it go. And we're going in a new direction. I said, really?
Wow.
In a new direction. So I called her up literally not long after that conversation and said, so is that job still available? Does God still want me there? And she said, yes, it's still available, because it was only meant for you. Like, he called you. He wants you. Now, you can choose to not do it, but he wants you. So I said, well, my job is gone, and yeah, it looks like I got more free time than I thought. So I accepted the job, and I have been at Beyond the Book Media from its inception ever since. I have watched the evolution and growth of it. Currently, I serve as the operations manager of Beyond the Book Media, and I've done everything under the sun, from customer service from within it to watching our clients just filter through our different systems, from just watching them get free from writing books that God has asked them to write in 20 years ago, 10 years ago, 5 years ago, and etc., and just watching them be healed because of it. That is the joy that I get, and I see why God called me to it, because as a writer myself, it just makes me even more excited to write for the things I'm called to write for as well.
That is powerful, Jacinta. And again, shout out to Beyond the Book Media. And folks, Beyond the Book, it's not just a title. It really is beyond. You know, Jacinta, you and I both know, having written now, there's a lot that happens throughout the writing process, and that's not just like physical and mental. There's also spiritual things, because books get birthed out of different places in people's lives. So folks, the work that Jacinta and Beyond the Book Media, the work that they do, it's the technical aspect of writing, but it's also what's going on in your life. Where are you at spiritually? And they pray. So actually that's a perfect place to take it. Jacinta, talk about just how you all cover the authors and the books, and kind of talk about that part, because a lot of times a lot of folks don't really get to see that. If you're a Beyond the Book Media client, you do, and this is no knock on other Christian publishers or whatnot, but just talk about how maybe Beyond the Book takes a different approach with even working with clients and praying over each project.
So that has been something that has been on God's heart. So just as I mentioned with regards to my blog, that father-daughter relationship that you noticed that was formed, that's how God is with me regarding our clients. So as operations manager, he is on me about, that's my child. So even Jason, when your book came through, like that, he's like, that's my son. And he will highlight, you know, if it's a certain area where you need an extra push, well, you'll notice our emails will be right on time. It is very often that we'll get, hey, I needed you guys to reach out to me. And at the time that we do, or the time that we pray, it's more than necessary. It is more than needed for our clients to push through what the enemy tries to tell them, and tell them, well, why are you writing this book? No one's going to read. Like, we have to help push people past those words, past the circumstances. But that has been birthed in me from everything that God called me to do before I linked up with Beyond the Book Media, so that I could know what it felt like as well. So the beautiful part about Beyond the Book Media is many of our staff, especially our lead staff, are all writers. So for us to go, we've been in your shoes. We're just not helping to push you because it sounds pretty. We actually are pushing you through, because I've had moments where I want to throw my laptop. I've had moments where I was like, God, I quit. I don't want to write about this. Why are you asking me to do this? Because a lot of people think leaning on God and not leaning on your own understanding is pretty. No, it's actually messy sometimes. Sometimes it's painful. But on the other side of it, that's where the healing is. That's where the resolve of a thing is. That's where the peace comes from.
Peace. There's that fruit again, Jacinta. Love, joy, and peace. And when you think back on, as you reflect, Jacinta, just on everywhere God has taken you in your life and everything that you're involved in the marketplace, what is maybe a couple of lessons that you've learned? You work in real estate. That's one aspect of the market. You're writing. Just talk to us about maybe two things. You mentioned one earlier, and that's that relationship. Just, I know that I'm God's child. I know I'm his daughter. But maybe talk to us about what are two other impactful things that you've learned in the marketplace. And folks, I want you to listen to what Jacinta's saying, because a lot of times we compartmentalize what happens at work or in your career or day to day at the office. So as she answers, just listen to what she's saying as she summarizes. So again, that question, Jacinta, just two critical things you've learned in your relationship with God as you work with people in many different aspects throughout the day.
So I know it's going to sound cliche, this first one, but it really is true. One of my favorite Bible verses is, "Seek ye first the kingdom of heaven, and all things shall be added unto you." Now that's the King James Version. Definitely look it up in other versions because they break it down even better as well. But the reason why it's my favorite Bible verse is because in business, when you keep God first, when you seek what he wants for the kingdom, your clients are added, your money is added, your growth is added, what you need to learn to become better is added, your support staff, right? Whether it be your admin, the rest of the people on your team start to get added. That's the biggest lesson that I've learned. Do it his way. He's going to add the people because guess what? We're doing it on his time and his bill. Okay? Like, he will provide the money for everything. Like, that's how I've been able to do my books with resources because of God. That's how I've been able to do my blog. Even real estate clients have come from word of mouth because I walked according to seeking him first. What is it that he wants? Where does he want my feet to go? And he will add the rest. So that's number one. And for me, number two has been this. I tell it to our publishing clients all the time. God is not after your perfection. He's after your progress. A lot of times our authors at Beyond the Book Media get stuck, and including myself. I am not exempt from this feeling. Including myself, like when I did real estate, I kept telling myself, I want to get it right every single time. God was like, what are you trying to get right every single time? He's like, how do you think you learn and grow? It's through the mistakes. It's through the errors that you realize, don't do that again, pivot, turn this way. Or it's in the storms that come that you go, wait a minute, I shouldn't have done it that way, and I need to change a trajectory. And the change might be as simple as I need to get a new system for whatever I need in my business. Or it could mean I need to hire and stop running alone. As long as you're making progress and walking the path God has you on, and the path that he has specifically identified for you, and as you can tell by my bio, that's multiple paths for me. You can still be on multiple paths and heading the direction God needs you to go, but he's after your progress, not your perfection. Let him mold you. Let him grow you. Let him bring the people to help you so you could be a better business owner, entrepreneur, writer, singer, podcaster, you name it.
Folks, Jacinta Martin. That was a mic drop right there, Jacinta. I love it. Seek first the kingdom. That's Matthew 6:33. Everybody, you can go back and read that one for yourself. That's a favorite of mine. And then I feel like that's going to set some people free right there, Jacinta. Progress over perfection. Folks, only God is perfect. And so the perfect one does the perfecting, but this side of heaven, we walk daily. Only when we see the Lord in all his glory one day, that's when we'll be fully perfected. That's glorification. But that's a story for another day, Jacinta, right there. That's a whole other thing, and that'll be an exciting time seeing the Father in all his glory. But these day-to-day moments, walking by faith, I love that, Jacinta, and I really feel kingdom business owners, Christian business owners, they need to hear that, because we get to striving, as you know, Jacinta. We start going after stuff, and we start getting tired, and I got to, and I have to, and I need to, and we start grinding, and thank God for grace over grind. So thank you for summarizing that for us, Jacinta. Progress over perfection.
You're welcome.
Jacinta, I don't know a kingdom business owner alive where their personal testimony hasn't played a role in where they stand today. So you talked about a lot of the entrepreneurship. You talked about all the different gifts and talents. But give us peel the curtain back a little bit with your testimony and where God has brought you today. How have you walked with God, and what was that inflection point, that turning point that really got you? And I love your transparency earlier. You're like, I was still playing games. So when did the game become real and you really just began to seek God more deeply? When was that moment, and what did that look like?
So for me, that happened young. I was 18 years old, and I write about this in the novel, The Fragmented Soul, that I wrote. I was 18 years old, and I will never forget this day. I had came back from college. I will not say what college at this point. And had come back from a party, Friday, Saturday night, freshman, and of course had been drinking, and yeah, that's why I won't say what college. And basically was in a bad place. I was missing home because I'm from California originally, and was missing home. I was missing my family. I was in a new space out here in Georgia, and was just, God could tell, like I was unhappy. And because I was unhappy, what I tried to do at 18 was, my high school, senior year was amazing in California. I had a chance to sing at Carnegie Hall. I had a chance to dance. I have been to Japan. I had done the most amazing whirlwind year before graduating. So what I tried to do was stick a circle into a square hole by trying to duplicate the exact same way I operated in a previous season into a new season. But I didn't recognize that until I've gotten older, at literally at this age, that seasons matter to God. Just as we have summer, spring, fall, and winter, they matter to God even in our transitions and the way our life goes. So at 18 years old, after that party, I had this conversation with God, because even back then I could still hear the audible voice of God. I told him I didn't want to live for him anymore. I didn't want to walk with him anymore. I said, it's not working out. I had this amazing year, my senior year, and freshman year of college was horrible. I said, I hate it here. I don't want to do this. And literally walked away from God. I heard the audible voice of God try to get me to go up and go to church that Sunday. And it must have been Saturday night, that Sunday. And he was like, go to the chapel at the school. I said, no, I don't want to go. And he asked me 3 times. The third time was silence. Now, when God gets silent with me, I said what I said. I love you, but I said what I said. So he did that 3 times, and the third time was silence. The silence lingered. You know how when it becomes uncomfortable and you're like, oh my God, please say something. Did I make you that mad? Please just say something. And God said, after that, after the uncomfortable silence, he said, I'll wait for you.
Wow.
I'll wait for you. Those words. So just like the prodigal son, in the Bible, if you guys know that story where the son literally left his father's house because he thought something was waiting on him. I don't know what exactly, but I lived that life. I thought there was something better than living and walking with God. Boy, was I wrong. Boy, was I wrong. Literally went out there, wild out, had the time of my life, at least I thought, until someone said, you look a little sick. What? I actually had gone out into the world, gotten sick, and literally sick, and realized then that was my wake-up call. And I said, God, I don't know how to come back to you. In all actuality, I am embarrassed to come back to you. He said, I know. But he said, do you remember my words? And I said, yeah, you said you'll wait on me. He's like, yeah. And he welcomed me back with open arms. I will never forget that day, because that was the catalyst that put me on the path that you have heard in my bio.
My God, Jacinta, that's powerful. Folks, seasons matter to God, and he waits on us. And I just love what he said to you, Jacinta. That was powerful. I will wait on you. That's the fathering part of him, and then even the shepherding part. There's so many examples in Scripture, Jacinta, where we see the heart of God. And when we have moments like that, they're unforgettable. And he knows his children. He knows how to get to us. Wow. I will wait for you. I will wait on you. That is huge. Well, Jacinta, you've been referencing this throughout our talk today. So your book, The Fragmented Soul, give us high level. What is that about? And who is this for, and how can it really help people?
So the overall level of it is this. It's for those who really been trying to understand God as Father, but struggle to see him as their Father. Literally, I take you through a version of my story. So the beautiful part about my book is God allowed me to protect the innocent people. So a lot of it is my life, but some of it isn't. He allowed me to make it entertaining enough as a novel for you to sit through, and especially if you don't like to read. It is definitely entertaining, but it is. And what he told me was this. He's like, base it on your real life, though. And I said, why? I don't want to tell everybody my business. He said, because real life is stranger than fiction. And I said, oh, gotcha. So, there's enough of me inside literally rebuilding my identity and learning how I had to heal that after becoming a prodigal daughter. Leaving God, leaving the Father, leaving the safety of heaven and his way, and walking the path with him. So that's really who it's for. It's for anyone who's never seen God as Father, anyone who's ever left or walked away because, church hurt is a thing, and who stopped serving just because they were upset about the people. Listen, it's not about serving the people. It's about serving God. So for me, it was understanding that. It also, I talk about in there my marriage as well, and I even talk a little bit about how when we don't look at ourselves before we get married and examine what we're dealing with and be real honest with ourselves, how that can creep into our marriage. How that can even, a part of the reason why the divorce rate is even so high, because we don't get honest with ourselves about why we're mad, right? God is always telling me, don't hold in while you're upset or frustrated. Talk to me about it, because then I could tell you where the root of it's coming from, and I can help that not stick on your identity or how you see a thing, so we can actually see it from my perspective. And I'm like, man, a lot of times that right there helps me to change my mindset and to see the identity, whether it be a marriage, whether it be a business, in the light that God shines upon it.
Folks, sounds like you need to get a copy. Jacinta, where can people go and purchase the book?
So most definitely you can go to Amazon. That is where I have it listed. I'm also super excited because I just released a hardback cover version on Amazon of it as well. So it feels like a real novel to me. Paperback is great, but that hardback book, I love it.
Come on now. So, folks, we'll have that in the show notes, but make sure you grab a copy of that. That is awesome, Jacinta. Jacinta, we've been referencing your blog, Fruitful Gems. What are you most excited about in the direction that God is taking it, and what's next for Fruitful Gems?
So Fruitful Gems is gearing up for the next step is really to start teaching more. We've been sharing our expertise in blog form and in podcast form and even YouTube form, which has, I love, and God has named all of these. Our podcast is Polished Gems, and it's exclusively on Patreon for our family and community. And it also, our YouTube channel series that we have going on is called Solitaire Gems, where if you can't read a whole long blog, we literally give you one gem, just one gem each week as well. And I believe right now we're doing it bi-weekly for right now till we can get it into weekly. But where we're headed is God has a desire to just teach how loving and kind he is to his children through a webinar teaching that we have actually coming up in May. And soon we'll be releasing our first course. So I am so excited about that. That's going to be 9 ways to heal and rebuild your identity. And I get to teach you what God has done for me. He did it for me, and he has given me the green light to go ahead and teach it even deeper for those who are ready to reestablish that relationship, not only back with him, but with those around you. What I realize is in learning my true identity through him, I've been able to have better relationships with the people around me. And I'm talking about my own children, my friends, my coworkers, family, even like my relationship, because I'm starting to know myself. It's amazing how it draws people to you. It's amazing how it draws just such a light from within out to others. And of course, they want to be around that.
That's exciting. Folks, you want to keep up with what Jacinta's doing. It's some exciting things on the horizon right there. My God. You know, Jacinta, this has been, as you know, this has been a wild real estate market, especially over the last 2 years. So what are some pointers that you can give to entrepreneurs? And I can't remember if you're referencing more the commercial side or residential, but what are some things that you're seeing in the market presently? And what are some trends that entrepreneurs should be aware of if they're thinking about, maybe an investment portfolio or getting a space to maybe change their business model by putting on events? Just talk to us about some of the trends that we're seeing in the real estate market.
Okay, so one of the things that I hear the Lord saying that he wants me to share is this: don't be afraid of the downswings of the market. So here's why I say that. Back when the pandemic first started, people were afraid to do anything, right? We almost kind of froze and were afraid to invest. We were afraid to move. Let me tell you, I remember at the start of the pandemic, my broker is Keller Williams, North Atlanta, and they were giving us phone calls all throughout the start of the pandemic to tell us how low the interest rate was. Let me tell you, that is the time that even my mom, I was able to help her get her place right before lockdown happened. She got one of the lowest interest rates. So what I want people to realize, when trouble starts, that's not the time to start fearing. that's not the time to start freaking out. I'm going to give you another example. When I bought my house in 2008, remember we had the market crash during that time. I bought my house in 2010 as the market was getting ready to go back up on its upswing. The builder for my house, because I got new construction at 25 years old and didn't have to pay any closing costs. The builder was so desperate to sell the house, they paid the closing costs. I think I got a check back, if I'm not mistaken. And so what I'm telling you is, don't fear the pandemics or the things that look scary to the rest of society. Go to God and ask. Because I promise you, I've seen builders or other people who are like, no, we got to get rid of this. This inventory has got to get out of here. And they're in such a mad scramble that you'd be surprised. I've been able to own my home for over 11 years. I bought it before I gave birth to my daughter, and we have owned our home for over 11 years. So if I'm proof enough, don't be afraid of the stock market crash. Don't be afraid of none, especially with God. If you do it with God, I promise you, I've seen some miracles happen. So that's one when it comes to real estate and even this current market. The other thing, too, is this. For commercial real estate, when you want to go into commercial real estate, the best thing that I could say is have your tax information ready, right? A lot of times we wait. Taxes are one of those things where especially if you've gotten out of doing your own, which I definitely encourage every business owner, stop doing their own. Get some professional person to help that you trust or that God has highlighted. But have your tax papers ready, because when it comes to commercial real estate, they want to know your credit worthiness. They want to know your taxes. They want to know, just like you're buying your home, they want to know these things. So when you have those tax documents ready, it's one less thing that you got to go scramble to do, because it's already not necessarily a daunting task, but it's an unknown task, right? Especially when God is asking you to do that for your business and you don't know everything. Just having those simple things already in place help it not to be so daunting.
This is golden advice, folks. I hope we're paying attention. I love that, Jacinta. These are powerful nuggets. Jacinta, as we round out here, as operations manager, Beyond the Book Media, if an entrepreneur, kingdom business owner, if they're interested in publishing, where can they get started? Where do they even get started in the process? What does it look like to kind of enter the top of that funnel, if you will, for, hey, I know I want to publish, I got an idea, I want to use Beyond the Book Media, where do I go?
So my recommendation is be on the lookout for our 3-day challenges. Our 3-day challenges are free for people to join unless they want to, upgrade with values that we have as well. Like, we definitely offer workbooks or VIP experiences. So that's what I mean by an upgrade. But really, our 3-day challenge helps you to see who we are, if you need to join yourself with us, because we give away the most amazing information to get you started. But once you get started, joining our Brand Author Academy takes you into like boots on the ground. Let's actually put in some work on this manuscript. So through those funnels, that's the best way to come and join up with us to actually write your book that God is calling you to write. Now, Jason and I are talking about books, and you might understand, books can be anything. And you might be like, I'm a business owner. Why do I have to write a book? You have expertise and knowledge that someone else needs. It doesn't have to be a personal story like mine, The Fragmented Soul. It doesn't have to be that personal. God could just be calling you, like, for example, in real estate, to write about that. look, might even be asking Jason, can you write about podcasting? You learn more of this.
Right.
And share your amazing knowledge because you've done it differently than the person sitting next to you, right? So we have something to share with people, whether it's in the form of a short brand book, whether it's in the form of a how-to, because we can help each other bypass some of the stepping stones, stumbling blocks, mountains to get to where God is asking us to go. So the whole point of the book is me reaching back and grabbing somebody else. That's the whole point of a book, whether you're a brand, a business owner, solo entrepreneur, whether you're a podcaster, blogger. So that's the point of your story. That's the point of your words.
Well, folks, you already heard it from Jacinta. I think some of you all have some writing to do, and Beyond the Book Media is the place to do it with. And you've heard from the founder. If you haven't, go back and listen to episode 1 with Chanel E. Martin, the founder. But then you got the operations manager, which means that she knows the day-to-day of what's happening to get you going. So some of you, if you've got a book in your heart, I encourage you to reach out to him. And Jacinta, I have thoroughly enjoyed our time here on the Jericho Force podcast. You have given us so much wisdom, and you have been transparent and vulnerable with everything that you're doing in the marketplace. Jacinta, what's the best way people can follow you, contact you, keep up with all that you're doing? Where can they find you?
So you can connect with me on social media at fruitfulgems.com and actually, that's our website, fruitfulgems.com. And I'm going to spell this because most people go, wait, what? It's fruitful, spelled exactly as it is in the dictionary, and gems is spelled Jems. And here's what's funny, just a little tidbit about that. That's actually my initials. So those are actually my initials. That is why it is spelled that way. I know that is not how you spell gems. But also you can find us on social media at Fruitful Gems as well.
Love it, love it. And Jacinta, you go ahead with yourself. Yep, tell them, listen, I'm the founder. It starts with a J. I like that. Well, folks, we've come to the end of our time here on the Jericho Force podcast. Jacinta, I got to tell you, this was powerful. I learned even more in this conversation, more than when we've initially had our talks offline. But I can't thank you enough for being a guest here tonight on the Jericho Force podcast.
Oh, thank you so much, Jason, for having me.
Well, folks, that'll do it. You know how we end it with our remix, our little riff off of Romans 12:2. Don't conform to the world's way of doing business. Transform by doing business God's way. We'll see you next time on the Jericho Force podcast.
Thank you for listening to the Jericho Force podcast. You can catch us live on Wednesdays at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time and on demand. Check out jerichoforce.com/podcast for more details. To learn how to live out your faith in the marketplace, grab a copy of Jason Davis's book, Fortify, Being Rooted in God's Plan for Work and Business, available on Amazon.